Okay, we're going to take off the nose cone on this transmission. And we're going to pull this off. May have to tap it a bit because it's put on by silicone, so it'll be stuck. Next, we're going to flip it over, and we're going to take the back housing off. This part here my hand is on, and I have to say it's been a while and it took me some time to put this video on, which is the last one for this transmission, and only because I have been very busy in the shop, so I have to get it together so that it can be complete. And then those who are trying to repair their transmission will be able to see how to disassemble this trans and put it together. This is one of my favorite transmissions. It's not an expensive unit, and it's very reliable. It will get you where you need to go. Okay, so you put this cap to the side. Now we're going to take loose the bolts on the differential cover. Differential has a problem with the pin. Spider gear is grabbing the pin and blowing out through the case. There's one over here. I will show you. Same transmission. And you see that hole in the case. When that happens, it causes the transmission to leak. It destroys the torque converter, and you have to get another whole transmission. Now there's a fix for that. You can see this here, the pin. What it does, if you look at it, it has channels here. Grooves in it. And it allows the spider gears to ride on the grooves, and it allows oil to get into these channels, constantly providing the spider gear with lubrication. And any debris is flushed off the channel so it doesn't build up and cause the spider gear to lock around it. Give you a chance how that look like. Okay, now if you can see this, when you put this through, you can see the notches in there. Okay, as it spins around, you have 1, 2, 3 notches, and these make sure that oil constantly goes through and lubricate the spider gear as it spins around. The middle is solid, but this is how the regular one is. The regular one, there are no notches. But this one here, you see the notches. The debris is flushed through, the oil goes through, and it aids in not allowing it to lock up, because it can't really seize on anything because it has to jump over humps or jump over the gap. Okay, so you have to knock this one out. It has a pin, but to use it you have to use the 2 retainers. on the I'll show you what that means on the retainers. But you have to knock the pin out. Use the retainer because it doesn't have a spot for a roll pin. So we're going to knock this out, the old one that is, which has a place for a roll pin. We got this kind of stuck in there. This punch was just a little too wide. Alright. So here's the roll pin. We won't use that anymore. Then you take out the old shaft pin, which is a solid one, and you're putting in the triple lube pin. Then these are the retainers. You can buy these separate if you don't have them already, and you put one on one side and one on the other, but you have to take two of the bolts out of the differential assembly here to put them down, and they hold that pin in. So I'm going to take a loose so that you can see what I mean. Okay, put some Loctite around here. Probably the red type, which is better. Put them inside the retainer, and you put the retainer on the other side. And keep the pin inside of this differential. Now we're sanding the outside. Remember, it allows things to stick better. Put the silicone around the nose comb. Now, I want to talk some more about the retainer pin. You can see how I'm putting it around the silicone on. This you can do. But that retainer pin, the purpose for that, not retainer pin, but the differential pin, shaft pin with the 3 notches in there for the spider gears, is designed again to aid in stopping it coming out of the case. The spider gear, what it normally does is grab around that pin because it has very little lubrication, and what normally happens over time, the pieces of gears wear off and debris goes into the transmission. The filter catches some, but some of them is washed up, and anything that is small, it can plug up. And debris, there's the nose cone, so you put that on, but debris plugs up those little gaps in the solid that is in between the shaft pin and the spider gear on a solid pin over time. And then once it gets blocked up, then there's no oil flow. So therefore that shaft pin eliminates that by allowing wider gaps there. So debris can just go straight through, and oil can continue to go through, and the spider gear can rotate on that oil. Okay, right now we're putting on that nose cone, putting 2 bolts in there, I guess. I'm going to turn it upside down so that the bearing can fall into the race, and then we're going to put the back cover on, or housing. Now this is best to use 2 dowel pins. I've tried to do it without dowel pins, but it's best to use dowel pins on this because it will line it up perfectly. If you don't use dowel pins, and you're gonna get cocked trying to go in, and you'll get it in, but it won't go in as smoothly. Then you put all the bolts in, and you impact them or hand tighten them, whichever one you want to do. And then turn that differential. You want to make sure that nothing is cocked or binding. It has to turn freely. If it doesn't turn, something is wrong. Okay, now you see I'm sandpapering the pan. Now, if you use silicone, you have to make sure that the pan is not oily, that the case is not oily. Everything must be clean. Do not be lazy and put the silicone on an oily pan and try to put it together. You will be taking the pan off while the transmission is in the car or the van or whichever. Make sure that it's clean. Use some brake cleaner, alcohol, whatever, and clean it to make sure that oil is gone. This is a rough pan to be taken off inside of the vehicle. And what I'm doing, I'm blow drying it because brake cleaner will dry very quickly. You can rub it dry, whichever you want to do. Now again, all silicone is not the same. Chrysler, what comes on this pan is something that Chrysler uses, which is normally gray. That's very, very good. It adheres very well. Again, this silicone here, I don't really like it. It will bond, but the best one that I find out I've changed to is something that's sold at Federated Auto Parts, which is Permatex, and it says adhesive on it. This is silicone, but it says adhesive on it, and it adheres very well. Once it bonds, it's like glue, almost like the Chrysler version. So I use this new style now. Okay, now we're up here tightening up the bolts. This is the differential cover, and then I tap it. The reason is sometimes the pan is not solid or flat, so you want to tap it down to make sure the edges that are up are flat against the case. You don't, or you will have a leak there. So go around and tap it. Alright, this is the end of this show. Sorry it took me so long.